She asked nothing from the predator. She Saved reaches its dramatic peak when Dr. Mara confronts the Galactic Council, invoking the blood debt owed by the Apex Legion. As corporate interests falter, General Krexath and his warriors storm into the council chamber, their presence electrifying the assembly. "The blood debt has been invoked," he announces, forcing the council to authorize their intervention and save billions of lives. The amethyst crystals of Epsilon 7 caught the dim light of the Electa star system, casting eerie purple shadows across the desolate lunar landscape. Dr. Mara Lin adjusted her environmental suit's oxygen flow as she carefully traversed the rocky terrain. 3 years of training at the Galactic Alliance Academy hadn't prepared her for the sheer alien beauty of this place, the crystalline formations that grew like trees toward the ink-black sky, the pools of violet sediment that bubbled with mysterious chemical reactions, and the perpetual twilight that made every shadow seem alive. "Base, this is Lin. I'm approaching the southern quadrant as scheduled," she reported, her voice echoing inside her helmet. "Atmospheric readings are consistent with yesterday's samples. Nothing unexpected yet." "Copy that, Dr. Lin," came the crackling response from Orion 9, the research station that had been her home for the past 6 months. "Remember Protocol 7-3. No samples from the liquid pools without secondary containment." Mara smiled to herself. "Dr. Wen, I wrote half of those protocols. And you're the first to break them when something interesting appears," her colleague replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Just be back before the solar flare window. Forecasts predict increased activity in approximately 4 hours." The communication cut off, leaving Mara alone with the whisper of her breathing apparatus and the soft crunch of moon soil beneath her boots. As a planetary biologist assigned to investigate the Electa star system, she'd cataloged hundreds of microorganisms that thrived in what should have been impossible conditions. Epsilon 7 was a scientific treasure trove moon, with just enough atmosphere to sustain simple life, orbiting a gas giant in the habitable zone of a binary star system. Humanity, in the Galactic Alliance era of 3245, occupied what scholars politely called a median position among hundreds of sentient species. Neither the strongest nor the weakest, neither the most technologically advanced nor the most primitive. This mediocrity had its advantage. Humans were versatile enough to adapt to nearly any environment, and politically neutral enough to serve as diplomats, scientists, and traders throughout the galaxy. Mara's thoughts wandered as she collected soil samples, carefully labeling each one according to location and composition. The Galactic Council had commissioned this research station to evaluate Epsilon 7's potential for terraforming, though the official documentation was deliberately vague. She suspected there were mineral interests at play. There always were when corporations funded scientific expeditions. A sudden shift in the ground beneath her feet interrupted her musing. The soil gave way, causing her to slide several meters down an unexpected incline. She landed with a soft thud at the bottom of what appeared to be a natural depression in the lunar surface. "Damn it," she muttered, checking her suit for breaches. Finding none, she rose to her knees and examined her surroundings. She had fallen into a crater-like formation, approximately 20 meters in diameter. At its center lay a pool of the viscous purple substance that dotted the moon's surface larger than any she had previously documented. Scientific curiosity immediately overrode her caution. This pool appeared different from the others, darker, with an iridescent sheen that shifted colors as she approached. The liquid bubbled sluggishly, releasing vapor that was quickly dispersed by the thin atmosphere. Mara moved closer. Her scanner extended to analyze the composition from a safe distance. The readings came back unusual high concentrations of organic compounds that shouldn't have been possible in this environment. She was about to take a carefully contained sample when something moved beneath the surface of the pool. At first, she thought it was just another bubble forming, but then the entire surface rippled in a decidedly non-random pattern. Something large was submerged in the purple ooze. Every safety protocol dictated she should retreat immediately and report the finding. Instead, Mara found herself stepping closer, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her training. The movement came again, weaker this time, accompanied by what sounded almost like a low, gurgling growl. The surface of the pool broke, and a massive clawed appendage emerged, grasping weakly at the air before splashing back into the purple liquid. Mara froze, her heart pounding against her ribs. That was no microorganism. With trembling hands, she adjusted her scanner to penetrate the opaque liquid. The readings were difficult to interpret through the dense medium, but what she saw sent a chill down her spine. A biological entity massive, complex, and unmistakably dying. The Alliance protocols were clear. Unknown biological entities, especially large ones, were to be reported immediately and quarantined pending investigation by a security team. Under no circumstances were civilian scientists to engage. But something about the weakening movements of the creature struck a chord in Mara. Whatever it was suffering, and as a doctor, even one specialized in microscopic life forms, she had taken an oath to preserve life where possible. "Base, this is Lynn," she began, then hesitated. If she reported this, a security team would be dispatched with orders to neutralize any potential threat. The creature would be killed or, worse, captured for military research. She switched off her communicator. Moving quickly, Mara set up her portable analysis equipment at the edge of the pool. The creature was large, at least 3 times her size based on the scanner's estimates, and its life signs were fading rapidly. The purple liquid was toxic to it, slowly breaking down its cellular structure. "I'm going to help you," she whispered, though she knew the creature couldn't possibly understand her. "But you have to work with me." She extended a specialized extraction tool designed for collecting geological core samples toward the movement. "Grab this if you can understand me. I'll pull you out." For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, with startling speed, the clawed appendage shot out again, wrapping around the metal pole with surprising dexterity. Mara braced herself and began to pull, her exosuit's enhanced strength amplifying her efforts. Slowly, a massive form began to emerge from the purple ooze. First came an armored head, featuring an elongated skull with multiple eye sockets, 6 in total. She counted, though only 4 contained dimly glowing orbs that she assumed were eyes. A ridge of what looked like bony spines ran from the crown of its head down a powerful neck, disappearing into broad, armored shoulders. The creature was vaguely humanoid, but clearly evolved for combat. Its entire body, covered in natural armor plates, interspersed with areas of leathery, scaled skin. As more of it emerged, Mara could see that its muscular torso gave way to powerful hind limbs and a thick, armored tail. With one final heave, she pulled the creature clear of the pool onto solid ground. It collapsed immediately, its massive chest heaving with labored breaths. Up close, Mara could see the damage the toxic liquid had caused. Parts of its armored hide were dissolving, revealing raw flesh beneath. Recognition dawned slowly as she stared at the magnificent, terrifying being before her. She had seen similar creatures in Alliance security briefings. This was an Apex Rayon of the legendary hunters from the Apex Legion, the most feared military force in the known galaxy. A predator species that had evolved on a death world and emerged as apex predators among apex predators. The Apexra were not part of the Galactic Alliance. They existed as an independent force, offering their services as mercenaries to the highest bidders, though they followed a strict code of honor that was as mysterious as it was absolute. To see one here, alone and injured, was unprecedented. The creature's 4 functioning eyes focused on her, glowing with an intelligent awareness that sent another shiver down her spine. It made no move to attack, though whether from weakness or choice, she couldn't tell. "I'm going to help you," Mara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm a doctor. Do you understand me?" The Apexra made a clicking sound that might have been an attempt at communication, then nodded its massive head once. Definitively, it understood. Mara worked quickly, applying emergency sealant to the worst of the creature's wounds to stop the chemical burning. She administered broad-spectrum antibiotics and regenerative compounds from her medical kit, hoping they would be compatible with the Apexra's biology. "The toxin is eating through your armor," she explained as she worked, finding comfort in the familiar routine of treatment, even in this extraordinary situation. "I can neutralize it, but you'll need time to recover." The creature watched her silently, its breathing gradually becoming less labored as the treatments took effect. When she had done all she could with her limited supplies, Mara sat back on her heels and regarded her patient. "I should report this," she said, more to herself than to the Apexra. "But I know what would happen if I did. The security forces would come, and they'd either kill you or take you for study." The creature's eyes narrowed slightly, a gesture so human-like it startled her. "So here's the deal," Mara continued, making a decision that could end her career or worse. "I'm going to help you recover, and then you're going to leave without anyone knowing you were here. No one finds out about this encounter. That's all I ask in return for saving your life." The Apexra regarded her for a long moment, then slowly extended one massive, clawed hand toward her. Instinctively, Mara reached out her own gloved hand. The creature's grip was gentle but firm as it completed what seemed to be a gesture of agreement. For the next 3 days, Mara made excuses to her colleagues about extended sample collection while she secretly returned to the crater to tend to the Apexra. She brought medical supplies, nutritional supplements, and even water, which the creature accepted with dignified gratitude. By the 3rd day, the Apexra had recovered enough to stand towering nearly 3 meters, tall and communicate through a series of gestures and clicks that Mara gradually began to understand. It seemed to be a commander of some sort, based on the elaborate markings on its armor. It had been on a scouting mission when its ship malfunctioned, forcing an emergency landing on Epsilon 7. The toxic pool had been an unfortunate accident. On the 4th day, Mara arrived at their meeting place to find the Apexra gone. In its place was a small, crystalline object, perfectly formed and shimmering with all the colors of the spectrum. A gift, she presumed, though whether it had any value beyond its beauty, she couldn't tell. She pocketed the crystal and returned to Orion 9, believing the incident was over. She had saved a life and kept her word. The Apexra had honored its part of the bargain by disappearing without a trace. No harm done to anyone. She could not have been more wrong. The rumors began 2 weeks later, whispers among the station's support staff about strange vessels sighted at the edge of the Electa system. Mara paid little attention until Dr. Kala Wen mentioned it during their weekly research review. "Have you heard about the Apex Legion ships?" Kala asked, her expression unusually serious. "Apparently, they've been conducting maneuvers just outside the system's heliosphere." Mara nearly dropped her specimen slide. "The Apex Legion? Here? That's unusual." "Unprecedented is more like it," Kayla replied, her fingers tapping nervously on the laboratory table. "They never come this far into Alliance territory without a contract. The security team is on high alert, though they're trying not to panic the civilian staff." "I'm sure there's a logical explanation," Mara said, struggling to keep her voice even. "The Legion must have business somewhere nearby." "Perhaps." Kayla didn't look convinced. "But there's something else. A strange rumor has been circulating among the military personnel, something about the woman who saved an Apexra. Apparently, this story has reached the highest ranks of the Legion itself." The blood drained from Mara's face. That sounds like a fairy tale." "That's what I thought too," Kayla agreed. But Station Commander Torres seemed genuinely concerned. The Alliance has strict non-interference protocols with the Legion, and any unauthorized contact could jeopardize the fragile peace between our civilizations. Mara mumbled something non-committal and excused herself, retreating to her private quarters where she could process this alarming development. How had the story gotten out? The Apexra had left without anyone seeing it, she was certain of that. Yet somehow, word of her actions had spread, not just to the station but to the Apex Legion itself. For the next few days, Mara jumped at shadows, expecting at any moment to be called before Commander Torres and accused of violating Alliance protocols. But no summons came. Instead, the tension on the station gradually increased as more Apex Legion vessels were reported in the vicinity. On the 7th day after Kayla's revelation, Mara was working late in the xenobiology lab when the station's alert system activated. "Attention all personnel," Commander Torres's voice echoed through the facility. "We have received formal notification of an Apex Legion diplomatic vessel requesting permission to dock. This is not a drill. All non-essential personnel are to remain in their quarters. Essential personnel, report to your emergency stations." Mara's heart thundered in her chest. There was no reason to believe the Legion's arrival had anything to do with her, she told herself. It could be coincidence, some diplomatic mission that happened to bring them to this remote outpost. The self-deception lasted exactly 37 minutes before her communication panel chimed with a priority message. "Dr. Mara Lin," Commander Torres's voice was tight, with barely controlled stress. "Your presence is required in the main conference room immediately. This is a direct order." The walk to the conference room was the longest of Mara's life. Each step felt like a march toward judgment, her career, and possibly her freedom hanging in the balance. She had violated direct protocols, interfered with an unknown alien entity, and potentially compromised the security of the entire research station. When the conference room doors slid open, Mara steeled herself for a tribunal. Instead, she found only Commander Torres and a single, massive figure that made her heart stop. The Apexra stood at least a head taller than the one she had rescued. Its natural armor more elaborate and decorated with what appeared to be ceremonial scarification. Unlike her wounded patient, this one wore technological enhancements, armor upon armor, and weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. "Dr. Lin," Commander Torres said, his voice carefully neutral. "This is General Krexath of the Apex Legion. He has requested to speak with you specifically." The Apexra's 4 primary eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her want to shrink back. Instead, Mara straightened her spine and met its gaze. "General," she acknowledged with a slight nod, unsure of the proper protocol. The creature made a series of clicking sounds, followed by a low rumble that reverberated through the room. To Mara's surprise, these sounds were translated by a small device attached to its armor. "Dr. Mara Lin," the mechanical voice intoned. "You are the one who saved Commander Vexar from the poison pools of this moon." It wasn't a question, but Mara answered anyway. "I assisted an injured being. I didn't know his name or rank." General Krexath's head tilted slightly, a gesture she now recognized as curiosity. "Yet, you knew he was a Apexra. You knew the consequences of your actions under your Alliance protocols." Commander Torres's sharp intake of breath confirmed that this was news to him. Mara winced internally, but maintained her composure. "I knew he was a living being in pain," she replied. "That was enough for me to act." The Apexra was silent for a long moment, its eyes unblinking as it studied her. "Commander Vexar tells us you asked for nothing in return for saving his life. No payment, no favor, no oath of service. Only silence and his departure. Is this correct?" Mara nodded. "That's correct." Another long pause. "This is unusual. The concept of an unconditional life debt does not exist in our culture. All debts must be balanced. Commander Vexar now owes you a blood debt that cannot be repaid by mere silence." "I don't want anything," Mara insisted. "I did what any doctor would do." "This is factually incorrect," General Krexath stated. "Our analysis of Alliance protocols indicates that 97.3% of your kind would have reported the discovery and allowed Commander Vexar to die or be captured." Commander Torres shifted uncomfortably, but remained silent. "Nevertheless," the general continued, "the blood debt exists, and because Commander Vexar is of the High Command, his debt extends to the Legion itself. I have come to formally acknowledge this debt and to offer you transportation to our command vessel, the Black Dragon, where you may claim appropriate compensation according to our customs." Mara blinked in surprise. "You want me to come to your ship, now?" "This is correct." Commander Torres finally spoke up. "General, Dr. Lin is an Alliance citizen and a crucial member of our research team. I cannot simply allow you to—" "It is not a request that can be denied," General Krexath interrupted, his translator conveying the finality of his tone perfectly. "The blood debt must be acknowledged properly. However, I can assure you that Dr. Lin will be returned unharmed within your solar cycle. This is a matter of honor, not hostility." Mara's mind raced. Refusing seemed impossible. The tension in the room made it clear that the Apex Legion would not accept rejection of what they considered a sacred obligation. Yet the thought of boarding an alien warship, alone and unprotected, sent a chill down her spine. "I'll go," she said before she could reconsider. "But I want Commander Torres to receive hourly confirmation of my safety." General Krexath made a sound that might have been approval. "Acceptable terms. We depart immediately." The journey to the Black Dragon was brief, but surreal. The Legion's shuttle was designed for efficiency rather than comfort, with seating that clearly wasn't intended for human anatomy. General Krexath remained silent throughout the trip, leaving Mara to her thoughts and growing apprehension. When they docked with the massive warship, Mara's scientific curiosity temporarily overwhelmed her fear. The Black Dragon was legendary, a dreadnought-class vessel that had never been boarded by Alliance personnel. The opportunity to see it from the inside was unprecedented. The ship's interior was as alien as its occupants, corridors designed for beings larger than humans, with environmental controls set to conditions that left Mara slightly uncomfortable. The lighting was dimmer than she was accustomed to, and the air carried an unfamiliar scent that her brain registered as vaguely predatory. General Krexath led her through a series of security checkpoints, where other Apexra regarded her with what might have been curiosity or hostility. Their expressions were difficult to interpret. Finally, they arrived at what appeared to be a command center, where a familiar figure awaited. Commander Vexar stood tall and fully recovered, his natural armor now complemented by technological enhancements similar to the general's. When he saw Mara, he placed one clawed hand across his chest in what she assumed was a gesture of respect. "Dr. Mara Lin," his translator conveyed, "you honor us with your presence?" "Commander," she acknowledged, relieved to see him healthy. "I'm glad to see you've recovered." "Because of you," he replied. "A debt that cannot be measured." General Krexath gestured toward a display that dominated the center of the room. "We have brought you here not merely to acknowledge the blood debt, but because we have discovered something that concerns both our peoples." The display illuminated, showing a detailed map of a nearby star system not Electa, but one Mara recognized from astronomical charts as Lyricus, an agricultural hub that supplied food to several Alliance worlds. 3 solar cycles ago, our long-range scouts detected this, General Krexath continued, manipulating the display to zoom in on a massive object moving through the system's outer reaches. Mara frowned, studying the image. "That's a mining missile. Heliocore Corporation uses them for resource extraction in uninhabited systems. Correct, the general confirmed. However, this mining missile's trajectory has been altered. Its current path will take it directly through the agricultural planet's upper atmosphere in 17 days. The resulting chemical contamination will render the planet uninhabitable for approximately 50 years. The implications hit Mara like a physical blow. That would be catastrophic. Billions of people would starve without Lyricus's food production. There must be some mistake. Heliocore wouldn't risk such a disaster. There is no mistake, Commander Vexar stated flatly. We have analyzed the trajectory multiple times. This is deliberate. But why? Mara demanded. What could possibly be worth? Economic consolidation, General Krexath interrupted. Heliocore's primary competitor in resource extraction is Stellar Harvest, which recently invested significant capital in Lyricus agriculture. If production fails, Stellar Harvest will collapse financially, allowing Heliocore to absorb their assets at minimal cost. The cold calculation behind such a plan left Mara speechless. Have you informed the Galactic Council? They could intercept the missile, evacuate the planet. We have attempted to provide this information, Commander Vexar said, his translator somehow conveying frustration. The Council claims our evidence is insufficient and suggests we are attempting to create conflict between alliance corporations for our own benefit. That's absurd, Mara protested. The Legion has nothing to gain from this. Precisely, General Krexath agreed. Which is why they dismiss our warning. The Council is heavily influenced by Heliocore representatives. They will take no action without irrefutable proof, which cannot be obtained without intercepting the missile directly. And the Legion can't intercept it without Council authorization, Mara realized, understanding the diplomatic stalemate. Because that would be an unauthorized military action in Alliance space. You understand our dilemma, Commander Vexar said. Which brings us to the matter of the blood debt. Mara looked between the two massive predators, suddenly comprehending why they had brought her here. You want me to help you stop the missile? We cannot act without authorization, General Krexath confirmed. But you, as an Alliance citizen with knowledge of this threat, could petition the Council directly. If they still refuse to act, you could invoke the blood debt formally, requesting our intervention as personal compensation. That would bypass the diplomatic protocols, Mara said slowly, thinking through the implications. Because it would be a private arrangement between me and the Legion, not an official military action. Precisely, Commander Vexar agreed. The blood debt gives you the right to command the Legion for a single action within certain constraints of honor. You could direct us to intercept the missile as your chosen compensation. Mara paced the alien command center, her mind racing. What they proposed was technically legal, but would undoubtedly be seen as an exploitation of a loophole in interspecies law. She would be challenging the Council directly, accusing a powerful corporation of attempted genocide, and involving the Apex Legion in Alliance affairs. If I do this, she said finally, my career is over. The Council will never forgive the embarrassment. Possible, General Krexath acknowledged. But billions will live who would otherwise perish. Is your career worth more than their lives? Put that way, there was really no choice at all. I'll do it, Mara declared. But I need evidence I can present, something concrete enough that the Council can't simply dismiss it. We anticipated this request, Commander Vexar said, gesturing to a data crystal on the console. This contains all our sensor readings, trajectory calculations, and analysis of the missile's payload composition. It should be sufficient for a preliminary hearing. Mara took the crystal, surprised by the weight of responsibility it represented. The Council will convene tomorrow for the quarterly Interstellar Assembly. If I'm going to do this, that's when it needs to happen. Then we will transport you directly to the Assembly Hall. General Krexath decided. The Black Dragon will remain at the edge of the system, awaiting your signal should it become necessary. As promised. Mara was returned to Orion 9 within 12 hours, carrying the data crystal and a weight of knowledge that made sleep impossible. Commander Torres had been briefed only that she had discussed matters of mutual scientific interest with the Legion representatives, a fiction that wouldn't hold for long once she made her move. The following morning, she boarded a transport to the Galactic Council headquarters on Nexus Prime, the diplomatic hub of the Alliance. She had sent ahead a formal request to address the Council, citing urgent matters of planetary security language that guaranteed her at least a brief audience. The assembly hall was imposing by designa, massive amphitheater, with seating for representatives of all 217 member species of the Galactic Alliance. The Council itself occupied an elevated platform at the center. 12 individuals from different species who collectively governed interstellar affairs. Mara was scheduled to speak near the end of the day's agenda, after routine matters had been addressed. As she waited in the antechamber, rehearsing her presentation, a familiar face appeared. "Dr. Kayla Wen," Mara exclaimed in surprise. "What are you doing here?" Her colleague looked uncomfortable. "I was summoned by Ambassador Vorn. He has questions about your recent activities." Mara's heart sank. Ambassador Vorn was the human representative on the Council and notoriously aligned with corporate interests. If he was already investigating her, the situation was even more precarious than she had realized. "Kayla, listen to me," Mara said urgently. "What I'm about to do in there is going to seem crazy, but it's necessary. Billions of lives are at stake." "What are you talking about?" Kayla asked, genuine concern in her expression. "Just watch and listen. And afterward, remember that I did what I thought was right." Before Kayla could respond, the chamber doors opened, and an aide announced, "The Council will now hear from Dr. Mara Lin on matters of planetary security." The walk to the speaker's podium felt like moving through water each step, weighted with the knowledge that there would be no turning back once she began. The 12 council members regarded her with expressions ranging from polite interest to obvious impatience. "Dr. Lin," Ambassador Vorn acknowledged. His tone clipped. "The Council has granted you 5 minutes to present your urgent security matter. Please proceed." Mara took a deep breath and connected the data crystal to the podium's interface. The holographic display came to life, showing the mining missile's trajectory toward Lyricus. "Esteemed Council members," she began, her voice steadier than she felt, "I come before you with evidence of an impending catastrophe. This mining missile, launched by Heliocore Corporation, has been deliberately diverted to impact the agricultural world of Lyricus. When it detonates in the upper atmosphere, the resulting chemical contamination will render the planet uninhabitable for decades, causing famine throughout the Alliance sectors that depend on Lyricus for food production." Murmurs spread through the assembly as representatives leaned forward to study the projection. Ambassador Vorn's expression darkened. "These are serious allegations. Dr. Lin," he said, "what proof do you offer that this trajectory is intentional rather than a navigational malfunction?" Mara advanced the display to show detailed analysis of the missile's course corrections. The missile has made 17 distinct trajectory adjustments, each one precisely calculated to maintain its course toward Lyricus. This is not a malfunction, but a programmed path. "And the source of this information?" another council member inquired. This was the moment of truth. The data was collected by Apex Legion scout vessels and verified by their command staff. The assembly erupted in shocked exclamations. The Apex Legion was feared and respected, but their involvement in Alliance affairs was unprecedented and deeply concerning to many. Ambassador Vorn slammed his hand on the council table. "Order, Dr. Lin. Are you admitting to unauthorized contact with the Apex Legion?" "I am," Mara confirmed, standing her ground. "And I can verify the authenticity of their data. The missile will impact Lyricus in 16 days, unless it is intercepted. Even if these allegations were true, A HelioCorp representative interrupted from the corporate observation platform. The proper procedure would be to file a formal complaint and allow for an investigation. What you're suggesting, immediate intervention based on unverified data from a mercenary force, is outrageous. We don't have time for formal investigations, Mara countered. By the time your investigators confirm what I'm telling you, the missile will have already detonated. Ambassador Vorn's expression was cold. The Council appreciates your concern, Dr. Lin, but we cannot act on information provided by the Apex Legion without independent verification. We will dispatch an investigation team immediately, and if your allegations are substantiated, appropriate action will be taken. That's not good enough, Mara insisted, knowing she was burning bridges with every word. The investigation team won't reach the missile in time. You need to authorize immediate interception. That is not your decision to make, Vorn replied sharply. The Council will handle this matter according to established protocols. Your 5 minutes have expired. Mara stood her ground, heart pounding. This was the moment, the point of no return. In that case, I invoke the blood debt owed to me by the Apex Legion. The assembly fell silent, shock rippling through the gathered representatives. Even Ambassador Vorn seemed momentarily at a loss for words. I saved the life of an Apex Legion commander. Mara continued into the silence. By their laws, they owe me a blood debt that must be repaid. I am formally requesting, as payment of that debt, that the Legion intercept and neutralize the mining missile before it reaches Lyricus. The HelioCorp representative was on his feet now. This is absurd. She's attempting to circumvent Council authority by employing mercenaries to attack our property. Not attack, Mara corrected. Intercept and neutralize a weapon of mass destruction that threatens billions of lives. Ambassador Vorn had recovered his composure. Dr. Lin, you are treading on dangerous ground. The blood debt is a private matter between you and the Legion, but authorizing military action within Alliance space requires Council approval. What you propose could be considered an act of war. Then approve it, Mara challenged. Authorize the Legion to intercept the missile. Once it's been examined, if it proves to be on a legitimate course, I will accept whatever consequences you deem appropriate. And if we refuse this authorization? Another council member asked. Mara squared her shoulders. Then I will still invoke the blood debt, and the Legion will act on my behalf as is their right under interspecies law. The difference is whether you choose to work with them or against them. The threat hung in the air, not from Mara, but from the implied presence of the Apex Legion, whose firepower was legendary. While the Alliance forces were formidable, a direct confrontation with the Legion would result in massive casualties on both sides. This is blackmail, the HelioCorp representative sputtered. This is a choice, Mara corrected. Save billions of lives, or protect a corporation's right to commit genocide for profit. The council chamber erupted into chaotic debate, representatives shouting over one another as factions quickly formed. Ambassador Vorn called repeatedly for order, but the momentum had shifted. Other council members were now demanding that the HelioCorp representative explain the missile's trajectory. In the midst of the uproar, the massive doors at the rear of the assembly hall crashed open. A hush fell over the crowd as General Krexath strode into the chamber, flanked by Commander Vexar and 4 other Apexra warriors. Their presence was electric predators among prey, moving with deadly grace toward the council platform. The blood debt has been invoked, General Krexath announced, his translator projecting his voice throughout the chamber. The Apex Legion acknowledges its obligation to Dr. Mara Lin and awaits her command. Ambassador Vorn rose to his feet, visibly struggling to maintain diplomatic composure. General Krexath, your presence in the council chamber without invitation is a violation of protocol. The blood debt supersedes your protocols. Commander Vexar responded. We are bound by honor to fulfill our obligation. The HelioCorp representative had gone pale. This is a conspiracy to destroy legitimate corporate property. The council cannot allow. Silence, General Kreksath interrupted, his translator somehow conveying menace despite its mechanical tone. Your mining missile will be intercepted. The only question is whether it will be done with council approval, or without it. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to the council members, who conferred hurriedly among themselves. Finally, Ambassador Vorn spoke, his voice tight with suppressed anger. The council conditionally authorizes the Apex Legion to intercept the mining missile, for the purpose of verification only. If the missile is indeed on course for Lyricus, you may neutralize it. If not, it is to be allowed to continue its programmed mission. Mara released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It wasn't a complete victory. The council was clearly attempting to save face, but it was enough. The Legion accepts these terms, General Kreksath declared. Our vessels are already moving to intercept. We will provide real-time data to the council during the operation. The Heliocore representative was frantically communicating with someone via his personal device, his expression growing increasingly desperate. Mara watched him with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. He knew the missile's true purpose. And now, so did everyone else in the chamber. What followed was 3 days of tense waiting. The Apex Legion dispatched 3 warships to intercept the mining missile, while Alliance observers monitored every step of the operation. Mara remained on Nexus Prime, effectively under house arrest in diplomatic quarters, awaiting the outcome. When the Legion vessels reached the missile, the truth became undeniable. Not only was it programmed to impact Lyricus, but its payload had been modified to maximize atmospheric contamination. The evidence was transmitted live to the council chamber, where representatives watched in horror as the Legion's engineers disassembled the weapons guidance systems. With council authorization now firmly established, the Legion neutralized the missile, transferring its valuable mineral components to an automated harvester that would deliver them to a proper processing facility. The crisis had been averted, but the political fallout was just beginning. Heliocore's representatives were immediately detained for questioning. The corporation's stock collapsed as investors fled, and criminal investigations were launched in multiple jurisdictions. Ambassador Vorn, though not directly implicated, found his position severely weakened by his apparent protection of corporate interests over public safety. For Mara, the aftermath was complicated. She was officially reprimanded for unauthorized contact with the Apex Legion, but the council stopped short of more severe punishment given the outcome. Her actions had saved billions of lives, a fact that couldn't be ignored even by her harshest critics. 3 months later, Mara stood on the observation deck of Orion 9, watching the strange purple twilight of Epsilon 7. The research station had changed since her return, security had been increased, and her work was more closely monitored. Yet, she had also received quiet commendations from scientific colleagues throughout the Alliance, many of whom had friends or family on Lyricus. Still admiring the view? Dr. Calloway asked, joining her at the viewport. It never gets old, Mara replied with a small smile, especially when you know what's hidden beneath the surface. Kayla nodded thoughtfully. The station's getting a budget increase. Did you hear? Apparently, our research has suddenly become high priority to the council. I heard, Mara acknowledged. The increased funding and personnel had been arriving steadily since her return, along with enhanced security protocols that everyone pretended were routine. They're afraid of you now, Kayla said quietly. Or rather, they're afraid of what you represent, a human with the power to command the Apex Legion. Mara shook her head. I don't command them. I invoked a debt that's now been paid. It's over. Is it? Kayla gave her a knowing look. The rumors say different. They say the blood debt isn't something that can be so easily discharged, that by saving Commander Vexar's life, without asking for anything in return, you created something unprecedented in their culture, a debt that can never be fully repaid. Those are just rumors, Mara insisted, though she'd heard similar whispers. Maybe, Kala conceded. But I notice the Legion patrols the edge of the Electa system regularly now, and twice when our survey teams have encountered dangerous situations on other moons. Help arrived with suspicious speed. Mara said nothing, her gaze fixed on the purple horizon, where crystalline formations caught the distant starlight. She thought of the small, rainbow crystal the Apexra commander had left her a gift she now wore on a chain beneath her uniform, a constant reminder of the choice she had made. "They're calling you the commander of predators in some circles," Kayla continued, amusement in her voice. "It's quite the reputation for a planetary biologist." "I'm still just a doctor who did what was right," Mara replied firmly. "Nothing more." Kala patted her shoulder before turning to leave. "Keep telling yourself that. But remember, in this galaxy, perception often matters more than reality. And the perception is that the most feared warriors in known space answer to you now." When she was alone again, Mara touched the small bulge beneath her uniform, where the crystal rested against her skin. General Krexath's parting words echoed in her memory. "The blood debt endures, Dr. Mara Lynn. It is not a transaction to be completed, but a bond to be honored. The Legion remembers those who act with true courage." She hadn't asked for this power or responsibility. She had simply helped a wounded being because it was the right thing to do. Yet now, she stood at the intersection of multiple civilizations, holding influence she had never sought. As the distant stars of the Electa system reflected in the crystalline formations of Epsilon 7, Mara made a silent promise to herself. Whatever came next, whatever challenges this unexpected alliance brought, she would continue to act according to the same principle that had started it all, protecting life, regardless of form, without expecting anything in return. That was the true power of the blood debt, not the command of predators, but the demonstration that compassion without condition could change the course of history. In a galaxy of calculated exchanges and measured responses, she had offered mercy freely, and in doing so, had transformed the most fearsome warriors in the universe into guardians of the innocent. It was a responsibility she would carry forward, one decision at a time, guided by the knowledge that true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to save a life without asking for anything in return.